Council's YouTube channel. A recording of the meeting shall be available afterwards on the same YouTube channel. In addition, other people may film, record, post on social media or blog from this meeting. The use of any such images or sound recordings is not under the Council's control. May I remind councillors to please switch off your microphones when you are not speaking. My name is Rex Walker. I'm the chair of the committee. To my left, Councillor Andrew Brown, the vice chair. And by way of officer introduction, with us this evening, we have Shazza Brannan, Assistant Director of Planning, Andrew Cullen, Planning Policy Manager, Katie Hancock, Planning Policy Officer, and Alison Walker, the Borough Solicitor. So item number 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence.
We have apologies from Councillor Mason, with Councillor Parekh as substitute and Councillor Georgiou attending as a substitute.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? No, so none to record there. So we shall move on to the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 8th of January. Are we happy that they're an accurate record of that meeting? Okay, very good. Okay, so we'll move on to the substantive application before us, which relates to the Hilton Dental Surgery. I want to hand over to Ms. Hancock for the presentation, please.
Thank you, Chair. So just to start with, members are advised that 6 late representations for this application have been received from residents of Grange Park objecting to the proposed development. Concerns raised relate to the increase in on-street parking, leading to reduced vehicular visibility and inadequate access to neighbouring properties, and overall highway safety concerns as set out in the late representations that were circulated yesterday. So the application seeks planning permission for a first floor extension to the existing dentist practice at 1 Hilton Crescent, West Bridgford. The application site is located in what is primarily a residential area with dwellings neighbouring the application site on all sides. Located beyond the application site to the northeast is Leeward Manor Care Home, and to the northwest is the Hilton Crescent Centre of Neighbourhood Importance, where there are a number of commercial premises and a public car park. So this is an aerial image of the application site and its context. Again, you can see the predominantly residential nature of the surrounding area, the care home to the northeast, and the crescent of the Hilton Crescent Centre to the northwest. So this is the block plan of the application site, showing the relationship of the application building with the surrounding residential dwellings. These are the existing floor plans and elevations. As you can see, the footprint of the application building covers a majority of the application site, with the building extending to the northern, eastern and southwestern boundaries. To the south is 1 car parking space, accessed from Valley Road, and to the west is a bin storage area. As can be seen, the application building is single-storey with 3 surgery rooms provided. These are the proposed floor plans and elevations. As illustrated, the proposed first floor extension would provide an additional 3 surgery rooms along with other facilities such as a waiting room and a staff kitchen. So now we're just going to run through some photos of the application building. So this is the southern elevation and you can see the existing car parking space. The building entrance on the corner of Valley Road and Hilton Crescent. So this is the western elevation of the building. And this image shows the relationship of the application building, the carport that borders the site's northern boundary, and the nearest neighbouring dwellings on Hilton Grange. So now we have some contextual photos of the application site and its surroundings. These photos were taken across different days and different times. So first here is the junction of Valley Road and Hilton Crescent with the application building on the right. We're looking up Hilton Crescent in the morning. And here is roughly the same view looking up Hilton Crescent at lunchtime. So next we are looking down Hilton Crescent towards the junction of Valley Road and Hilton Crescent in the morning. The application building is at the end of the road on the left, so just over here. And again, the same view, but in the afternoon. So now we're looking along Valley Road towards the junction of Valley Road and Hilton Crescent in the afternoon. You can see the application building in the distance on the left, so just here. And again, same view, but in the morning. This is the Hilton Crescent Centre of Neighbourhood Importance in the morning. And you can see the car parking area. And again, close to lunchtime. And this is the parking associated with the Leewood Manor Care Home. And again, further into the site, the care home car parking area. Right, so as mentioned, the application seeks planning permission for a first floor extension to an existing dental practice. The principle of the development is considered acceptable and no undue harm is considered to be caused as a result of the proposed development to matters such as the design and character of the area, amenity and ecology. During the course of the application, discussions were had with Nottinghamshire County Council Highways as the highway authority and with the agent of the application regarding the provision of car parking. Currently, there is one car parking space provided on site and no additional car parking is proposed as part of the application. From the site plans and photos, it can be observed that the application site is constrained in terms of space and there is no scope within the application site to provide additional car parking. The Highways Authority identified that the proposed development would generate an additional demand for 12 car parking spaces. This is based on the reasonable assumption of 2 members of staff per surgery room, such as a dentist and an assistant, and 2 patients per new surgery room to account for a person being seen to by the dentist and 1 person waiting for their appointment. The Highways Authority found the lack of proposed car parking created a considerable shortfall in off-street car parking. As such, they advised that the proposed development would likely generate a significant increase in on-street car parking within the vicinity of the application site to the detriment of highway safety, and therefore recommended the refusal of the application. Discussions between the Highways Authority and the agent of the application were had to try and resolve the concerns raised, with communication set out in detail within the officer report. It is considered that all options have been explored, but ultimately the Highways Authority maintained their objection. Given the shortfall of off-street parking provision, it is considered that the proposed development would lead to an increase in on-street parking, which would have an adverse impact on access for vehicles, including service and emergency vehicles, strict junction and access visibility displays, and obstruct footways and be a hazard to cyclists and pedestrians, all to the detriment of highway safety. Whilst the expansion of the existing dentist practice is supported and weighs in favour of the scheme, it does not outweigh the harm that has been identified. Due to the fundamental highways concerns raised, the application is therefore recommended for refusal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Now we have 2 speakers registered to address us, and the first, the applicant, Kamal Missan. So invite you up to the chair. When you're ready and settled, the right-hand button on the device in front of you will turn the speaker on, and when you start speaking, I think you've got your timer already there. We'll have our timer too, and if you're still speaking with 30 seconds to go, we'll let you know, and then if you're still speaking when the time's up, it'll be me telling you to finish up. So when you're ready, off you go.
Chair, councillors, thank you. I am seeking permission for a modest first floor extension to Hilton Dental Surgery to increase capacity from 3 to 6 surgeries. This would allow us to double NHS provision and give over 1,000 additional residents access to essential dental care. This application responds directly to a clear and urgent need. Large-scale housing growth in Idwalton has added thousands of residents without any accompanying dental provision. Further major development is proposed in Tollerton, again with no local dental services. Hilton Dental Surgery is the closest NHS provider to both sites. The demand for NHS dentistry in this area is real, immediate and growing. Unlike GP services, dental practices receive no public capital funding. This expansion is entirely privately funded and represents a significant personal investment to improve NHS access locally. All I am asking for is a fair and proportionate planning decision that reflects the very clear public benefit being delivered. If this application is refused, it sets a dangerous precedent that no existing dental practice can expand their services to meet the extra needs of the community, as they are all situated in built-up areas. When viewed in context, this proposal is entirely reasonable. Comparable healthcare developments in Rushcliffe have been approved with significantly less parking and without any highway objections. Buttercross Dental in Bingham doubled from 3 to 6 surgeries last year with no off-street car parking. Gamston Medical Centre has been allowed to extend to 16 clinical rooms with just 14 car parking spaces. Highways concluded there would be no significant increase in traffic. Against that background, it is difficult to justify a requirement here for 22 off-street car parking spaces or predictions of serious traffic or safety impacts. These concerns are not supported by traffic surveys, accident data, or any empirical evidence. The planning officer's own assessment concludes that the proposal would not lead to any significant increase in activity or cause undue harm to nearby residents. Importantly, the practice has operated for many years without parking or safety issues. This is reinforced by public representations where residents consistently confirm that parking is sufficient and not a problem. The site is also well served by regular bus routes. Travel by bus, walking or cycling are realistic options for both patients and staff. Not all new patients will arrive by car, and sustainable travel is a genuine alternative here. There is plentiful on-street parking on adjacent streets to the practice. There is also substantial off-street car parking nearby. Hilton Crescent Car Park sits immediately adjacent to the practice and provides 28 spaces. Alfred Road Car Park, approximately 300 metres away, provides 58 spaces. Additional off-street car parking is also available on Valley Road. On-site mitigation has been proactively addressed. I have a written agreement with Leeward Manor Care Home for the ongoing use of 6 car parking spaces for staff. And there is scope to create an additional on-site space, providing 7 dedicated staff spaces in total. I did explore whether formalising this further would assist matters. However, I was advised by Andrew Cullen that even if a legal agreement were secured, it would not alter the highway's position, as they wouldn't accept any mitigation. And that highlights an important point for members this evening. Highways officers provide advice. However, they are not the decision makers. The responsibility for weighing the evidence, applying planning judgment, and striking the planning balance rests with this committee. Taken together, this demonstrates that parking and access have been carefully considered, are realistically mitigated, and do not result in severe or unacceptable harm. I am willing to put a travel plan in place and also to inform patients about preferred parking options and sustainable ways to travel. Councillors, the key test before you is whether this proposal would cause severe harm. There is no evidence that it would. By contrast, the public benefit is clear. Improved access to NHS dental care in an accessible and sustainable location, serving a growing and expanding community. I therefore respectfully ask you to approve this application, not just for my practice, but for the thousands of local residents who currently struggle to access NHS dental care. Thank you.
Forgive me, Mr. Missman, I appreciate we've got some slides here. Should we just run? I don't know how we were on time, Miss Walker, but how much? Okay. Thank you. Next up is Councillor Verdi, the ward, one of the ward members, please. Councillor Verdi, you know the drill. I think when you start in anger.
Chair, Vice Chair and members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to speak. I sit here before you as Ward Councillor for Galmston in strong support of this application. Hilton Dental Practice, I apologise that I may overlap with Dr Misson with some of the points, but Hilton Dental Practice is a long-established NHS healthcare provider that has served this, indeed, my community for over 20 years. It is a trusted and well-regarded local institution, a critical piece of community health infrastructure that residents rely upon for essential care. For many families and older residents in particular, it is an indispensable and accessible facility close to home. The officer's report confirms that in terms of design scale, residential amenity character, accessibility, etc., the proposal is acceptable and policy compliant, and the principle of expanding an NHS dental facility is supported. The sole issue before members is the highways objection. National policy is very clear. Development should only be refused on highways grounds where the impact on highway safety would be unacceptable or where the residual cumulative impacts would be severe. That, members, is a high threshold. In this case, there is no accident data presented, no traffic survey evidence, and no history of emergency access failure. The practice has operated for 2 decades in this location. Indeed, as a ward councillor who travels through this junction daily and regularly engages with residents, I have not encountered evidence of, in quotes, severe highway harm. The highway's position assumes a worst case car dominant scenario based on theoretical maximum parking standards. However, planning decisions must be based on reasonable and proportionate assessment, not hypothetical maximums. The officer's report, as already highlighted, concludes it is not considered that the proposed first floor extension would lead to a significant increase in activity or cause undue harm to nearby residents. That is an important finding. It is also important to recognise that the applicant has not ignored these concerns. Indeed, in fact, throughout the application process, they've demonstrably engaged with officers and highways to explore mitigation, including, as already outlined, discussions around additional staff parking provision and operating management of travel patterns, etc. That reflects a responsible and constructive approach. This is not a remote site. We've already seen that. It sits within walking distance of many neighbourhood facilities. It's served by regular bus routes, not very far, a short walk, and benefits from nearby public parking provision, where I park very regularly, and I've never not found a space. National policy actively encourages sustainable transport choices, particularly for healthcare facilities embedded in communities such as Hilton Dental Practice. We must also consider the wider context, and this is recently emerging. The Galmston Medical Practice, for which I'm also ward councillor, is less than a mile away, has recently secured approval to expand significantly. That expansion, like this one, responds to high healthcare demand in a growing community, my community and our community. It did not attract highways objection despite its scale, and also one which I support, as I do with this one. Both facilities are complementary and necessary, one providing primary care and the other one dental care. The necessity for increased capacity at Hilton mirrors that of Galmston Medical Practice. Significant housing growth, as we've seen in Walton and surrounding areas, has increased that demand considerably with absolutely no corresponding or correlation provision in dental care. This application directly addresses that need. That social benefit carries significant weight in the planning balance. Public responses reflect this, has already been highlighted. I wasn't aware of some additional respondents, which I'm very surprised with. I thought the consultation closes when it closes, but as far as I was aware, there were 31 out of 32 representations in support. Both ward councillors support this, and indeed our Member of Parliament supports this, and has encouraged a pragmatic and constructive approach to the decision making. Members, planning is about balance, as you are well aware. And yes, parking standards are material considerations, but refusing this application on the basis of a theoretical parking standard without evidence of real harm would, in my view, be disproportionate and contrary to the spirit of the NPPF. The test is whether the proposal would cause unacceptable, or in quotes again, severe harm. And having been in the area for 20 years, I have yet to see any issues passing there daily. On the evidence before you, I do not believe that threshold has been demonstrated. What has been demonstrated is a clear healthcare need, policy compliance in all other respects, strong community support.
What's your time?
And thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Verney. You can tell us at the end what it was. Thank you for that. Ms Hancock, are there any points of clarification arising from what's been said, please?
Yes, Chair. Just 2 points of clarification. I think it was mentioned that highways required 22 car parking spaces. Through the course of the application, it was finalised that it would be 12 spaces required. And just one other point regarding my comments in terms of activity, that was in relation to amenity. I direct members to paragraph 50 of the officer report. It clearly says that whilst impacts of parking provision in terms of highway safety is discussed later, when considering residential amenity, is not considered that the proposed extension and the associated increase in visitors would increase parking on street to such an extent as to have an undue impact. So that's in relation to amenity only. Highway safety is addressed separately. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, usually, so now falls to us to discuss, debate, decide, and usually at this bit, I invite members to decide which of the considerations, which of the material planning considerations they want to discuss first. But in this case, it seems fairly self-evident that there's only really one place to start, and the issue of highway safety. Who wants to kick us off? Councillor Ellis, please.
Thank you, Chair. There are two issues here, really, I think. One is NHS provision and the other is highways objections. In all my years on various planning committees, I've never seen such an obstructive highways report as this one. I think it's totally unrealistic. And would impose impossible demands, not only on this practice, but as has been said by the applicant, on many practices which are in a similar situation. On the other side of the coin, we have a national shortage of NHS provision. And it seems to me that the increased provision in Gamston would be welcomed by most residents, which is supported by the 31 out of 32 support letters. So for me, it's black and white. I would grant this planning permission.
Thank you. I saw Councillor Calvert first and then Councillor Pratt. Did you? Oh, sorry. I will speak. Fine. Councillor Pratt, then, please.
Thank you. Paragraph 70, it says that the Highways Authority considered much of West Bridgford and Edwalton to be beyond reasonable walking distance. So walking would be unlikely to be considered a convenient travel option. Now, I do live in Edwalton and I do often walk in the area. So my question is, what is the definition of reasonable in this context? Has the Highway Authority or our planning laws have any legal definitions of what is considered to be reasonable? because what may be reasonable for some may be unreasonable for others. For me, 30 minutes is completely reasonable. For someone who's elderly, 5 minutes may be reasonable. Whereas for somebody else, a jog of 20 minutes would be perfectly reasonable to make the way for a dentist checkup twice a year. So it would be helpful if officers can clarify if we have a legal definition in planning about what is considered reasonable walking distance. There's also the same paragraph also goes on to say about bus routes serving
Right,
this.
I'll just hold you there, 'cause I think if we get the answers, if we get the answer to that, and then
That's fine.
and then,
Okay,
and,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, all right. I was wrong. Carry on, please. Just been put in my place by the boss.
It's fine, no problems. Paragraph also said that the bus routes serving the site as unlikely to be considered convenient for access to the practice for much of the surrounding areas. I'm very intrigued about how did they reach the conclusion when, as of last year, there have been an increase in bus services, Route 5, Route 6, Route 7, and Route 11, all of them serving different areas of Edwalton, Gamston, and West Bridgford. So I've got my data and evidence. I'm a local. This dental practice is on the border of Edwalton and Gamston. So I have the local knowledge. So I'm a bit intrigued. How did Highways reach that data? And do the officers have any other additional data to prove otherwise that bus services won't be a convenient option? And similarly, Highways it again said that they consider travel by private car to be the most prevalent option. Now, my question again here is, what data has the Highways Authority produced in reaching the conclusion that traveling by private car is the most prevalent option? Are there any traffic surveys, any data or accidents, any data about parking issues, or are the Highways Authority considered experts in human psychology and behavior